Yogesh, how you doing, man?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys?
Not too bad, man. Thanks for jumping on today.
Yeah, great.
I see
Nice to
Suraj
meet you.
there too. I was just literally listening. Suraj, we can't hear you. I was listening to one of your last podcasts. It was very interesting.
Oh, which one did you listen to?
Nice. Which one?
The Feed Bear.
The feedback. Oh, with Pietro.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, about bootstrapping, right? Yeah, nice guess.
Yes. That was a good one.
Is it just that one you've listened to, or have you listened to others?
No, so you sent me you mentioned that like you could send me some links last time around when we were chatting. So at that time, I went on your page and then I listened to 10 minutes or so of another one, and then this one I found quite interesting, the bootstrapping, the startup idea, right? So that's why I started listening. I spent like half an hour.
What was it in?
Sorry.
What was it in particular that interested you about the bootstrapping one? Like what caught your attention?
So I when I started my journey, so it was friends and family, right, who got involved. So it's kind of bootstrapping, right? I mean, friends and family's funds. However, at that point, I was still contemplating like how and what should I be doing? Should I be getting investors involved or not? Fortunately, we found a good backers for us. So I went on the route that raising money. And when we raised $250,000 at that time, it was nice. We get not only just the backing of investors, but at the same time, you get to see their network, the knowledge they bring in, the mentoring sessions that I can have. So all of that certainly, is helpful as well. So I was just trying to understand that, how they built the successful business, bootstrapping, because I do see the value of having those mentors or advisors or investors who can, open up new doors for us.
Yeah, they sort of act as a gateway to the rest of the ecosystem, don't they? They kind of, something comes up in your journey, and they're like, "Hey, by the way, I might know somebody that you could talk to, which will help you a lot," and then that opens up multiple other doors as well.
It's about getting the right investors, though, as well, isn't it? I mean, you can get shit investors as well, and I think there's this push and pull depending on. I mean, like anything in life, right? You can get like the shortest straw, but I think there's a balance. There's like this push and pull between bootstrappers. Is like, I don't want to give any equity away, but then perhaps missing the potential benefits of having a good VC by your side as well.
I think that the age, the sort of the life cycle of the entrepreneur is quite important as well, because if they're quite later into their journey, let's say they've already had a successful exit, they might, you might have a lot more contacts, you might have a much bigger network. So the value of somebody who can open doors for you or give you mentorship sort of reduces over time. Whereas when you first enter the world, whatever age that is, I think initially it can be quite overwhelming. I remember I tried to start a business when I was 20. And I mean, I had huge misconceptions about how to even go about starting a business. I thought, hey, here's a nice looking PDF. Now let's go raise £1 million. I'm sure it'll be easy. I'm sure it won't be too hard. But yeah, I think that's an interesting point. And do you think that the exchange of the value of your company is worth the mentorship in the long term?
I definitely think so. So we are in food space, like the food and technology space. So it's really important that we understand how the different parts of the economy influences food, and the value chain of the food. We're seeing this now, a war in Ukraine has a direct impact on inflation, which has a direct impact on food prices and all that, and which has a direct impact of people not going to restaurants, ordering less takeaways and all that, right? So people, so it's important that we understand, how the different parts of economy can affect the value chain. And when I felt that, I've been blessed with the connections, my own network, the investors that have came in, they brought in their network as well. So I managed to pick up that knowledge or try to understand, how can we best position ourselves. But it's enormously valuable for us. In my experience, as far as I can see, I think it would be a missed opportunity not to consider, getting that advisory part or mentoring part, at early stage, which is quite critical. A lot of startups fail, obviously, if you don't have the market for. But another important aspect is that you weren't backed by a right people, from the investors or the team or everything else. Yeah.
And Yogesh, so was food something you're always passionate about, or is this an industry that you're new in? Like, tell us a little bit of background about yourself and how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in India, and in a family-run restaurant. So the love for food was always there.
Okay.
And then I moved to UK when I was, I think, 21, 22 years old.
Which part of India, by the way?
Gujarat. Ahmedabad.
Oh, Gujaratis love their food.
Yeah,
Best vegetarian food in the world. Yeah.
But yeah, so when I moved over here, so I'm vegetarian. So I'm talking about 2001, 2002. So in UK, it was already, life wasn't as difficult in a way for vegetarians, but it wasn't as good as it is now. I have to say that. But at one point, I started seeing the change in the restaurant. So I started seeing that every restaurant had at least one vegetarian meal. And now what we've seen in the last 10, 15 years that it has progressively evolved, that now every restaurant offers at least not just one vegetarian meal, but one vegan meal also. But what was important for me is that I always enjoyed the aspect of food, and then the passion for food. I enjoy cooking, and being vegetarian. Although I'm on a mild end of the problem in terms of finding food, at least in UK. But as a consultant, so has been my day job. I've been a management consultant, traveled around the world. I've been in some geographies where people didn't fully understand what being vegetarian means. Either I'm laughed at in the sense that how do you get your protein, how do you survive, those kind of silly conversation, to even conversation where they would say, but chicken is vegetarian, So yeah. So for example,
don't waste your time. Sometimes you just shouldn't argue.
As vegetarian. Sorry, go on, James.
Yeah, sometimes you just shouldn't argue with people. I mean, like
I know, exactly.
Starting on the back foot there. If they're trying to argue that chicken is vegetarian, I wouldn't even bother. What was your personal decision, by the way? Is it health reasons? Is it morality, or why are you vegetarian?
Why I'm vegetarian? I think both. So one is that I grew up in a family that we always been vegetarian, and in Gujarat, in fact, about 85% our population is vegetarian anyways. This is the state where Gandhi was born. So people are usually vegetarian, enormous food choices and all that. So you don't tend to think turning to non-vegetarian, So that was one reason. But then the morality kicked in that there is no need to kill a life to feed yourself. Now, of course, I completely respect, everybody who is eating meat as well, because then the third reality kicked in is the food freedom. Everybody should have a freedom to eat what they would like to eat. Just like I want to eat vegetarian, my vegan friends want to eat vegan is perfectly fine, and my meat eaters friends who wants to eat meat, perfectly fine. So it's all about food freedom. And then another layer is the morality, and then the third one was the way I was brought up. Yeah.
Mm. Is that something you saw then? Was that the genesis? I understand your current product is Gaston, right? So this is your food application. I actually downloaded it. I was so intrigued by it personally because I had kind of a lot of digestive issues with my gut growing up, and I thought there still isn't that solution where I can say, all right, I can check a box and say like, this is good for my health, this isn't good for my health. Been to doctors so many times and it's like, oh, we don't know what's causing it. Like, you'll be fine. Just, avoid fiber or eat fiber, and you get all these like contrasting kind of opinions, right? So I was kind of searching for that solution, which is why I was drawn to your app in particular. But is that kind of what you were solving at the start? Was it kind of trying to give more access to, people like vegetarians, people who have different dietary requirements, and trying to make them feel less excluded from, restaurants and social functions and such?
I think you got the problem really, right, because you're experiencing that yourself. Let's talk about the scale of the problem, and then I come to the solution part, why we got there. So here in the UK, we talk about nearly 20 million population. That's 1/3 of our UK's population. They have some form of special diet needs. It could be vegan, vegetarian, have food allergies or intolerances. It could be religion-based diets too, like people want to eat halal or kosher. Some are athletes, they want to have a very certain specific diets. People are also flexitarian, every Friday I don't want to eat meat or whatever those needs are. So when we look at the population or proportion of population who are categorized as users on special diet needs, there isn't any meaningful solution for that. A large proportion of that, especially the one living with the allergies and intolerances, moderate or severe levels, they don't even trust any of the mainstream food ordering apps. So that proportion, we're looking at somewhere around 8 to 10 million people. Okay. So now if you consider 8 to 10 million people want to dine out, but they're not able to discover the food that could match their dietary nutritional needs. And there is another side of it, that what happened over the COVID. And then very recently, a survey was carried out with about 80,000 people. So what has evolved or changed? So what we now know is that about 63 to 65% of UK's population, they want to eat healthy all the times. And even larger proportion, more than 80 to 90% population wants to eat at least one healthy meal a day. Now look, so what has happened, with the COVID, everybody started putting weight, so they want to now go back to the healthier eating or healthier lifestyle. Now, it's okay or easier to find healthy meals in groceries, the grocery stores like Tesco's and all that. Everything is labeled nicely, you can find them easily. However, when you start looking at eating out settings, only 4% people say that they can find meals easily in eating out settings. So I can see that the scale of the problem is so enormous. And then you just said that, right, yourself, that you didn't find any solution that you can just tick those boxes, and it then shows you the meal options that matches those needs, dietary or nutritional needs. So what we wanted to do with Gaston is that focus on those personalizations. So a user, whenever they have any special diet needs, whether it's diet-driven, religion-based driven, or even nutritional-based, medical conditions and all that, we wanted to present the results that matches those requirements. The really, really big critical missing component in this solution mapping is that the validation of data. So, on Deliveroo today, you can just filter the meals, they are vegan, right? But there is the degree of validation that goes in there. It's left largely to the businesses. They can enter the information of the meal. They need to validate that or verify that those informations are accurate, because at the end they are preparing the meal, and if you then go to businesses, they themselves don't know if the meal contains all the ingredients they're using are non-vegan, for example, or not. So there is that mismatch creates a discomfort. So what we wanted to do with Gaston is simplify users searching, whenever they're looking for food, but at the same time helping the businesses with the data validation. So we educate, and we even help out. We know our AI tool helps populating the information, our menu and ingredients, and categorizing those ingredients with the right labels, either it's a diet specific or intolerant allergen specific. So we're taking that headache away from them as well. So yeah, that personal pain or personal diet preference to a lot of people that I've known within my friends and family circles, or even when I looked at the larger proportion of society when they're struggling to find meaningful meal options, I realized that there has to be a solution. And now we live in a data-driven world. Why don't we make one?
So Yogesh, just an example then. Like I was on Deliveroo the other day, and I care about my fitness, I care about my health. So I always go straight to the healthy section, right? And I click and I scroll down, and yeah, maybe kind of buy either a couple of healthy options in there. You can kind of guess by the, there's a minimum amount of processed food. Most of the ingredients are whole, and you're looking at kind of like, wheat based, carbs if you're having carbs with your meal. But a lot of it in there is also things like sushi, which we know is highly processed, and all these different kind of things. So you can kind of slap a healthy tag on them, and a lot of people will be none the wiser, right? Because a lot of people don't have food education. It's something I've learned from myself as well. Just being an athlete, being in and around athletes, and talking about diet is normally the one thing that is completely neglected. Is that it's always about training and like how to recover and how to stretch, but there's not a lot on dieting. So my question is like, what's the process then in terms of, you said data validation? How would, someone like a sushi house or something get verified as healthy, and why would they not get, like what kind of markers are you looking for? And how do you help the business at the end of the day to kind of classify themselves?
Yeah, so that's really the space that we have sort of made a leap from, approach. So if you look at that Deliveroo, same example, like for them to populate the information accurately, validate it and all that, it will take good, 24 to 48 hours for businesses, for themselves to do that, right? What we can do is our AI tool, we can shorten that time window from 48 hours to less than an hour, including the data validation piece. So that's one thing. So, faster data validation, population and validation. Second part is that, but how do we do that? So we have a 3-dimensional approach. So when a business uploads their information, our AI tool dissects the menus, and we have automated the process with the help of large bank of list of ingredients and menus. What it does, it straight away creates a filtered list of ingredients for that are tagged to that particular dish that are populated. And then the real magic comes. So then the automated categories and classification happens. That's the level 1. So that's the majority of the work is done. So here we're looking at around up to 70% effort is completed. Then the second step comes in where the businesses do the verification themselves. That look, our AI tool has populated the information. Now please go ahead and verify this. Now, once they completed their verification, then our team of nutritionists, they will also look at the data. So that looking at this 3D approach, it makes sure that the information that we are presenting to a user when they say we are lactose intolerant or gluten intolerance, in their view, they will never see any dishes that contains those ingredients. So the real key difference with Gaston is that we don't show you the entire menu. So, for example, James, when you download Gaston, when you look at a menu of a restaurant, and so when you download the same restaurant, you too, if you have a different diet needs, you will see different menus on your devices. Because Gaston takes out the things that you cannot eat. And by doing so, it makes your life easier. Imagine, like, for example, I'm vegetarian, so I don't need to go through the whatever 40, 60 dishes they have, which ones are vegetarian. It's only going to show me the dishes that I can eat. Now, add the allergies in there, add the religion preferences in there. So we do all this, heavy lifting for user, but we are only able to do that accurately because we have a confidence that the way we populate the data on our platform. And what we want to do, sorry, go on. Yeah.
Am I right in saying that confidence comes from, as you mentioned, a large bank of training data of menus assigned with the ingredients?
That's correct, yeah.
But then, for example, say something like halal meat, for example, like that. That's not something that's easy to infer from a list of ingredients, because ultimately it's the manner in which the animal was killed, right? So how would your AI tool pick up on something more specific and localized like that? Because that to me seems like you have to take the word of a manufacturer or somebody who's like a verified manufacturer says, yes, this is the way it was done. So is there a technical way of approaching that problem?
Yes, so that will be in our product roadmap. We want to bring in a concept of blockchain. It's already being implemented within the food supply chain. So what happens is today, yes, we have to rely on that's the second step, verification. So once we've done the population, the restaurants or the menu populator, they will validate that, right? So, and then our team of nutritionists, they will have a chat very quickly that, okay, this critical component, for example, kosher food, right? So that needs to have a certified, by local rabbis. And if that's not been done, or if we don't receive that confidence, then we don't list that restaurant or particular dish or labeling that in that specific way. So, but this is still taking a lot of time. We can even, simplify this or bring more confidence to it. And this is where the blockchain will play a major role. So that's our product, within our product roadmap.
Yogesh, sorry, I understand it's in your roadmap and you probably don't want to give too much away, but can you describe on a fairly granular level how blockchain will actually help the supply chain? Because we've spoken to a number of people now that have said similar things. I've seen startups pop up and, there's all this hype around blockchain that we've spoken before, but supply chains very much seems like a use case where a blockchain can be highly beneficial. So maybe can you just break down for us and the listeners how exactly that would work?
Yeah. So let me start with a very simple example. What happened with Pret, this sandwich maker, a couple of people died because of eating contaminated sandwiches. Now, when the matter went to court, Pret said, we are just a sandwich seller. We don't manufacture here. It's manufactured in a manufacturing site. The manufacturer says that we make more sandwiches than just this one in our site. And those ingredients actually were bought from somewhere. They can't trace it where, right? Hence, we can't take the responsibility because we are the assembler of the ingredient, right? Think from the manufacturing process perspective. Now, so in the whole value chain, the parties who suffered by losing a family member are not able to find a person or the real entity, whether it's a corporation or an individual, who is really responsible for this debacle happening. Now, if we have a blockchain implemented in a value chain, what will happen? You will be very easily be able to trace where that ingredient came from. Yeah. And then not only that, you can even trace what batch was it, at what time it was harvested, and how it was packed and who by. So you can go really detailed in terms of where it has originated. Now, and this is what will help us going forward as well, that if you want to make the process faster, data validation process faster, that if you're able to just pick up the local tags, or where the product was originated or how it's processed, how it's packed and all that information already, we don't need to go back to restaurants and validate that information because that information is already there for us. So this is how it will help us in terms of increasing or improving the quality of data or accuracy of the data that we are.
Yogesh, one thing that comes to mind, does this all, even though it'll be in blockchain on smart contracts, so tracing the time, tracing the vendor who packed it, does this all not still depend on human trust? Because ultimately somebody has to insert information into the smart contract and the information has to be accurate, right?
Yes, you're right. I mean, at the end, look.
So if a vendor says this ingredient is sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that you're right, because at the end there is a human inserting data somewhere, right? Whether it's in smart contract or even in normal spreadsheet form. However, what is different is the liability will always be able to be traced, right? So who entered the data? So you can always go back to that. Okay, why did you enter this which wasn't correct?
It sounds like accountability, right? It sounds like
accountability, exactly.
It's like when you don't have blockchain, it's like you can probably find ways to skirt around being accountable for the people that died from a bread sandwich, for example. You can always try and spread the blame, but now it's like localized to the point. It's like we know what happened, and if you lied on your smart contract and we can prove that, then obviously you're going to jail for X number of years, and it just adds that whole level of accountability onto the whole process.
And look, we're not there yet. Let's be real, right? We're not there yet, but we're moving in that direction. And look what's happening with our regulatory changes. So in UK, we introduced Natasha's Law last year, right?
What What is
I
that,
know
sorry?
you're before. Natasha's law. That's the allergen specific. So all businesses, they need to specify the allergens on their menus very clearly. Then there is also legislation was introduced last year, was about information on nutrition's related information. Okay. So now for packed food, life is so much easier. Everybody follows the rules nicely. But when it comes to cooked food or prepared food on premises, then things are not black and white, because a chef cooking, they just grab something, from their pantry or whatever that, and they make food for an individual. But this is where the problems where a lot of people found the problems were within the food processing. So the laws were introduced, but there is a lack of understanding. So a person prepares the food. Is that the person responsible, or is the ingredient they're using that were labeled incorrectly is the problem, or the manufacturing side who packed the ingredients and then dispatched it is the issue? So you see, instead of worrying about where the real problem lies, moving to using the right technology or the more advanced technology will help getting to the source of the problem, and it will speed up the process and understanding, for people who are involved in making food, buying food, selling food. So it will, certainly help, but we're not there yet. We are moving towards that.
And what do you think the timeline will be like to getting there?
Oh, that's a very good question. Very good question. But look, generative AI is on a rise. Look, if you look at next 5 to even 10 years, it's all going to be on generative AI. Now, if that generative AI makes those advances, how everybody's expecting, then implementation of blockchain will become much faster. So
why is that? What's the relationship there between generative AI and blockchain?
So it's the information. It's the how well the information can be transferred, stored, processed, and then utilized, right? And then described as well, right? So as a user. So for example, I'm populating the menu, right? Now I've created a set of ingredients and the menu list, about 35 million of those data counts. Now, for me to be able to get a hold on much wider set of recipes and the ingredient data, I won't be able to do this, as it is. So what generative AI is going to do for me is that I will be able to find those data sources and populate the information much faster or much broadly, right? Then I'm able to do that. Now, even within that same space, our current accuracy between looking at the name of the dish to coming up with a set of ingredients is around 70%, 75%. So we're not that, advanced, but what generative AI could do for us is that we can go close to 100%.
Yeah. So are you using generative AI at the moment to do that task, or using
no. We would like to. We would be doing that. Yeah.
Okay. You're probably doing more of like a closed form, right? You just kind of have an input of some words, and then from that input, based on the training data, these are the ingredients that we think should be in it.
Yeah.
See, yeah, I can see why if you have like a browser enabled generative AI, that's going to become like a piece of cake, right? You can
exactly.
You can probably
this
put
is
like
where
an accuracy on what ingredients could even be in it in the future. You might say these are typically the ingredients in it, but some dishes make with X, Y, and Z. So there might be a probability that if you're allergic to peanuts, that some people, or allergic to nuts, some people might use cashews in this curry, but 90% of the time it's not the case. So
absolutely.
That's really
I mean, look. I'll give you a very simple example. Since you mentioned curries, right? So when we talk about some curries, Punjabi curries, right? People will automatically thought that it will have to have cashew nuts in there. Mm-hmm. Okay, but there are a large proportion of Punjabi curries that are prepared or made the same dish without cashew nut paste. Now, how do you know that, right? But and then what you do is that let's imagine I come across the recipes and the set of ingredients that we populated so far are all from the restaurants that are using cashew nut paste, but we left out all the other restaurants just because they're not in our catchment yet, right? But what generative AI can do is that just because I type the name, I don't know, let's say chicken masala, it will give me it will populate the ingredients from both sides, and then I have a list of maybe a broader list, but then I can then over the time refine, enrich it, and then make it more relevant, for businesses. So what I'm trying to say is that our accuracy of the populating the information will go up. Maybe it will overshoot more than what we need to, but then we can then improve it, enhance it, and then get to close to 100%.
Yeah.
So it will happen over the time. How fast, we just don't know. But I think that's the future for us. We're going to use that as well, because that certainly will help.
That's awesome. That's really exciting stuff. What a time. So I suppose then, was generative AI on the horizon before you saw this ChatGPT thing hit the commercial world, or is it something that you recently saw this come out and thought, hey, maybe we can implement this in what we're doing as well? Or did you already have this roadmap?
So we did have a roadmap, but the knowledge of what we could do with ChatGPT, it's enormous, right? I mean, what we started with is let's write a small, algorithm that just connect the pieces of information from our own database. And then you open up the database of own database to a web database. And then now what you're trying to do is that you just looking at multiple, data sources as well with the generative AI. So we obviously didn't think that this will happen, or it will happen much quickly. However, look, there are some other initiatives that were launched before ChatGPT. And they're in that space, who are helping you to write, copywriting, for example, or blog posts and all that. That existed or started, coming mainstream. And then, obviously, what ChatGPT did, it just, crashed everybody. The reason behind that, they're not only just helping you to write good blogs or a material for your website, but they do much more than that, right?
I think it was like a step function change in most people's idea of what AI could do, right? I think to many people, just consumers, average, people maybe work in the tech space, maybe you don't. AI can be a little bit of a black box, and you tend to associate it with things like industrial applications, speeding up business processes and stuff like that, similar to what you were talking about there. But I think ChatGPT was just such a step function in terms of actually the level of AI we are now. I think it just sparked everyone's imagination, as it seemed to do for you as well, in terms of what you could achieve with your existing roadmap. And kind of, puts like rocket boosters on it, right? In terms of how.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
The timelines you want.
Yeah, and our next, so we at the moment fundraising. So one of the things that we want to do, in about 8 to 12 months' time, is work on our demand forecasting model. And this is where generative AI play a big role for us. So initially, we thought about our product design was utilizing 6 different vectors of data points, and then coming up with close to accurately predicting for businesses how many more or less guests they can expect, on a given day, for example. And we see this particular model being very, very useful, not just for a restaurant, but so many other, applications as well. Hence, the need for us to look into that. Now, the 6 different vectors of data points that we were initially thinking, now the generative AI can make that available to us, much more, comprehensively. Now, again, we need to almost remodel the way we done it, 8 months ago when we were thinking about working on this AI model, because those our assumptions were different than what it is now or would be now, with the awareness of the likes of ChatGPT and other generative AI tools. So
Yogesh, is it that ChatGPT gives you the data, or is ChatGPT makes you more aware of other factors which could drive demand in the future?
So, ChatGPT is just one example. There are so many different generative AI tools that you can utilize.
Okay.
If you talk about data scraping, right? Now, data scraping, you can now cast much wider net, but more importantly, the results that returns to you with the ability So identifying, sourcing, then structuring the data, and then cleansing the data. If you think in the process, now the companies have made success or became successful, in the past, is that how well they have defined their algorithms, in doing so. Now, when we talk about sourcing data, is enormous effort required. If we talk about, like menu scraping tools, right? So there's a lot of effort required to, scrape through every single restaurants, their menus and their ingredients coming out. Some of the businesses don't even write ingredients, on their menus. So how do you know what ingredients would be in those particular dishes? Because those data are not sitting on that menu. It's somewhere else on recipes, right? So then you need to start another scraping exercise, which is on a different platforms, right? Or type of data. What we can do with the generative AI, different tools, you can combine this, So in one go, you tend to get, but again, I'm not saying that we are already there, but you can get there, right? So your quality of sourcing data is now enhanced. Hence, the structure and then cleansing part will be enhanced too, going forward.
Out of interest,
this is how it will help us. Yeah.
Does that mean that if you do kind of use generative AI in the future, does that mean your competitive advantage is, eaten into somewhat in terms of what you've spoken about? What I gather from what you guys are doing at the moment is your USP is actually the way you gather structure and draw conclusions from the data. Does generative AI, in your opinion, not level the playing field somewhat in that aspect? So if, the likes of Deliveroo, Just Eat come in and they do the same thing on as a layer on top of their product, can they not replicate yours?
Oh, certainly they can. This is where every startup needs to then evolve, create new value propositions for themselves. So what we're looking at is that, so currently we have launched dietary personalization. Now, people think that dietary personalizations are relevant. So as I said, I was telling you that we have thought about 5 or 6 different personalization points. So, for example, when Deliveroo moves into dietary personalizations, we probably will evolve into something else as well. Because what we want to do is that we are not Deliveroo. We do not claim to be Deliveroo either. What we are just a sophisticated personalization engine. We are helping you to find the food that matches your needs. Now, that we can move from food vertical to something else as well. So in fact, our API first approach for B2B side of it. So rather than having our own app and letting people to find the food using Gaston, we from this year onwards, we started creating a B2B offering. So where businesses can let their users use our APIs to find personalized food options. So we recently signed some really interesting deals. It's gonna be announced next month. It's a dating app. One of the largest one, 4 million users. So what they're trying to do is they want to create a value added offering, for their users. So when people are dating, they just come to their app and they find a partner and then they go away. What we're trying to do is that by offering those APIs, we can then keep those users more on their app and they can, their user activation rates increase as well. And for us, our objective is to bring this solution out to the wider a portion of population faster, because it has a real component where we are helping the society, with their the suffering that they're having in terms of the food freedom.
Yeah, so just listening to that as well. It's like I was just thinking, just quickly, sorry, Suraj, is like, as another layer on top of that, which could be useful, is just the healthcare aspect of it as well. So instead of manually inputting all of your dietary requirements, you help do some self-discovery. So it's like, I have these whatever biomarkers. What should I eat? What should I do? I think a lot of people maybe they have like quite stringent restrictions on, okay, I can only eat vegetarian, only in that. But I'm just thinking, in my case personally, I don't know sometimes what to eat or like how I'm going to react to certain foods. I know there are other people like that as well. So I'm intrigued with this product also by the healthcare potential down the line, and potentially integrating with other services that, as I said, allow you to like read biomarkers and kind of check your gut health and check your blood levels and all of these kind of stuff, and help you choose foods that optimize that. I know there are a couple of companies that do more of those things. And they can either be like hard tech or software. You're thinking like wearables companies do that, and there's also hard tech companies like, I don't know, like Routine and stuff like that will send you supplements and minerals that cater to your nutrition needs. I just wanted to make that comment, and whether you had thought about that at all. That was in the back of your mind. Thinking about partnering up and
Absolutely. That's our level 2. So, our level 1 is dietary, level 2 is nutritional. So with nutritional, rather than, going with this very simplified approach, we want to become goal-oriented. So you can then design a coaching programs for you. So instead of saying that, I want to reduce weight, you would rather say, I want to sleep better. I want to improve my, immune system. So those kind of, it's more like, your lifestyle-related health goals that you would like to achieve. And then rather than sending the nutrition, like a set of, a processed, packed nutritional products, we then can send you more natural, products, which is then the less processed. So again, this goes with the how much processed food you would like to eat. Right, so that's where
sign me up now, man. Sign me up now. I've been searching for this product my whole life. It's like everyone knows it's not. It's a boring. Anyone who does kind of fitness and cares about what they eat is like, this is a boring process, and there's loads of tweaking and this and that. Like anything, like designing a training regimen or figuring out your sleep cycle. Anyone who cares about optimizing their health, this is something that I feel like AI is. There's a huge kind of blue ocean there that just hasn't been touched yet and really properly addressed.
Yeah. So we really would like to address that, and because we see this as well, that if you see all this, healthy meal kits, everybody are trying to solve some problems, and they're all good solutions. So, but what we're trying to do is that we combine and then go a little bit a step ahead, think from the user's perspective, and I want to increase fiber, for example. But that increasing fiber has an impact on your digestive system, but more importantly, your muscles, proportion in your body. So that's your goal, right? You don't want to eat fiber, you want to build muscles, for example. So rather than going with what I can eat, let me just define my goals and objectives that I would like with my body. It could be that, mental stress. So we know that using products that has high level of antioxidants can help you relieve the mental stress. So if you have the stress issues, then rather than popping a pill, let us then send you to food options that are less processed, if that's what your desire is, that you can consume, so you can still enjoy your social life with your family's friends, but still achieve your health and lifestyle goals, Yeah, that's our level 2 personalized.
Any experts you listen to? I listen to a lot of like podcasts thinking along the lines of like Huberman podcast that goes really deep into like nutrition and biology and stuff like that. It starts so basic. It always starts with like, what's your goals? I think a lot of people kind of look for like so much complexity and they want like some crazy answer, but it's as simple as defining your goals. And then from this framework of like, all right, how much time do you have in your life? Like what are your dietary requirements? What's your end goal? Do you want to look better? Do you want to feel better? Because ultimately that's what people with nutrition requirements care about, right? They'll have a goal in mind. It's like, why do you want to eat healthier? Because I want to lose weight, because I want to look better and this and that. And finding kind of like this AI in your pocket that can just help you do that. That has huge potential and is very interesting to talk about this.
This feature that we wanted to develop is actually the use case. Initially, we started with something else. It was the aging population. So if you look at a lot of old age people in care homes and their meals, how they serve and all that. Now, rather than serving a generic meal to them, how about we understand individuals' lifestyle and their requirement and their even to a degree that again is a future, that their genetic combinations that helps them, what kind of food they should be eating to live healthy, happier, longer lives. right? So that was the use case that we started with. But then we realized that, let's look at the younger generation too, that is highly relevant, because when we learned that 64% of UK's population wants to eat healthy all the times, and in US that number is somewhere around 53, 54%. It's a huge number of population. So why not include the wider, set of population, and obviously, have a product feature that not just like today relevant, but also in future will remain relevant. So again, you asked how can we counter the competition? This is how we'll counter the competition. So we'll always evolve into using our core capabilities, which is remaining a very solid personalization engine that we can then continue evolving into a different space that with a different set of use cases.
That's really fascinating, really interesting. Yogesh, I have a question though, just to step away from the science part and in the commercial side of things. Who are your main customers at the moment? Because I think one thing I've been trying to wrap my head around over the duration of the conversation is it doesn't sound like you're going directly B2C, where people go on and can source things themselves, but rather are you selling to enterprises which can then use it as a white label solution? Or, so what's your go-to market strategy and who are your customers?
Yeah, so our current ones, so what we have got in the market currently is B2C app, which is, Gaston app that you can download. And there we're speaking directly with the restaurants, chains, meal kit companies. We also have a dark kitchen who have signed up with us, So you as a user can straight away search food. So that B2C application is very, very more like a resource intense approach for us.
Is that like a directory then? So people have this directory of food places that are near them. How do you onboard those food places onto the app yourself?
So it's same as how other food apps are doing as well. Oh, sorry, my desk. Yeah. So how other food apps are doing. We bring businesses on board. Now we don't charge them as much either. I mean, if you look at the likes of Deliveroo, Uber Eats, what they charge, we charge in terms, in comparison to them, a very small amount of fees, because we think that restaurants working really hard, they're suffering at the moment, and they should be keeping majority of their profit to themselves. For us, we can still grow with the operation margins of around 60%, which is pretty healthy for us, for the B2C part of the business. So we bring them on board, we talk to them, we get them, we sign them up, and then we bring them live. So you as a user, you'll be able to discover them and order food using our app as well.
Okay. Now, and then is the restaurant responsible for delivering the food, or do you have a delivery service in the app
both
itself?
So we don't do deliveries. We ourselves don't do deliveries, but our delivery partners do the delivery for us. And what we offer to businesses, again, a freedom. It's all about food freedom, right? So what we offer to restaurants, that if they want a delivery staff that they want to retain on an hourly basis, so we have a delivery partner who will provide that. If they want a delivery partner who serves on per delivery basis.
Oh, okay.
Then we also deliver a partner.
So for some restaurants, there's an additional value add that, hey, if you're not delivering at the moment, we can help you deliver coming onto our application.
Exactly. And save lots of money with that as well. So what businesses started doing, that whoever signed up with us, they actually reprinted their menus with our logo on them. So almost encouraging their users order using Gaston instead of other apps, for example.
Yeah.
And the second part, which we started working on it this year, beginning this year, is B2B side. So what we want is that start giving out the personalization API. So we started having discussions with one of the largest table reservation service provider. They operate in 13 countries, 60,000 restaurants. Can't name them just yet at the moment. Then a dating app that is launched is being announced next month as well. 4 million users. There's another dating app which is specific to vegans. We also want to work with them. We're currently having a discussions going on in India because we launched in India beginning this year. Those guys are having 3.5 million users. Cool. Also an app that provides healthy meal boxes.
Because one thing that came to mind when you mentioned that previously was, because I've been looking at a few different, because I'm currently based in India at the moment. So I was looking at a few different businesses that are replacing point of service systems. So they're kind of taking the entire menu of the POS system and putting it onto a digitalized system where everything can be done a lot quicker. So I think that like partnerships like that would probably sound ideal for you guys, right?
Exactly. So that's one of those partnerships. I'm having a discussion on Friday.
Awesome.
This week and then also next week. So there is a table-side service provider, right? Then the second one is the healthy meal kit seller, meal boxes seller in India. So these are the opportunities that we want to work with. Again, look, we got the technology and infrastructure. We can manage the inflows and structuring and then output of that data in an accurate way. And they can go about, serving their, B2C side, what they're good at. And this is where we're opening up to chains, restaurant, pubs, even second tier, third tier food aggregators. We would love to have Deliveroo, Uber Eats, likes of those companies on as our customer as well. But I think that bridge is too far for us at the moment. Catering companies, so all of that is who we'll be targeting going forward now, considering we're opening up the B2B side of it as well. And the objective has been that, solution we designed with a specific use case in the mind. The solution was very, very widely accepted in the marketplace, both by users and customers. So we now know that there is a real need. How can we get these benefits of the solution out to much wider audience rather than us trying to grow and it will take a lot longer. Let's just use the existing the corporations or partnerships that we can utilize. So that's what we are working on at the moment.
Because I think it's a lot easier to onboard one business, which is a gateway to maybe 1 million users, than it is to directly accessing those users in the market with a huge marketing campaign. I think it's one of it's something James and I have discussed before, because neither of us are particularly adept at B2C. I don't think he or I particularly understand B2C too well. So B2B sales is something that seems a lot more, to me personally, seems a lot more intuitive. Like, pick up a phone, provide value to one person, find a decision maker and make the sale. And then even if what you're selling is meant to be for a customer, that's a portal to many customers, because they effectively serve as the aggregator.
Exactly. And another side of it as well, that if you look at the cost, again, commercial side of it, right? So the user acquisition costs are much higher. Because when you multiply with the volume that you want to bring, so per user B2C, we're looking at 15 to 20 pounds. I mean, right? You will be
customer acquisition cost.
Customer acquisition cost.
Oh wow, that's expensive.
It is expensive, right?
That's
and then over the time it improves, right? So from whatever 15, 20 pounds, it should drop to around a pound or less than a pound, right? Over the period. But it takes a really long time before you get there. So unless you have millions to burn, good luck, right? Even the likes of Get There, we know the story of them as well. How they or any food delivery business, they have a strive and struggle to some extent, and they found success as well. But it takes time. And then the same concept, if you look at the collaborating with the different parts, that considers food, or food is very much attached to them. So we have a collaboration conversation going on with a gym company, a chain. They have 300 units. Now think about that. Everybody goes there. They have one objective in their mind, right? So they want to get healthy.
Yeah, but sounds like a natural horizontal integration. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is a fantastic case study in being very creative with your go-to-market. Actually, I don't think we've spoken to a lot of people that have really laid it out in such clear terms, and been so creative with it as well. I mean, like just attacking the places where people are going to have certain dietary requirements and nutritional needs. And instead of just slapping ads on Facebook, you're thinking about it very, very tactically. It's very impressive, actually. Is this something that how did you kind of get this idea? Did you draw from kind of other business models? Is this the result of years of trial and error? And I want to maybe tie that to the question of, which is kind of the secondary part of that question, which is you did chemical engineering, right? This is what you studied at university, because founders come in all shapes and sizes. Typically, a lot of them are like finance, econ, and then you get like a number of technical founders and computer devs and all of this stuff, right? Computer science. So, is there anything about doing engineering? Because we all three of us did some kind of engineering at university. Is there anything about your background there that you can say, all right, today, here and now, that helped me a lot more than say, another degree or a finance degree would have done?
So it's very interesting. So as an engineer, a chemical engineer, and I completed my PhD in chemical engineering too. And one thing that I personally think that has helped me, that engineering side of it, is I'm highly analytical with the approach that I always take. Very objective also, data driven, rather than just thinking emotionally. Right, let's just put this into numbers, so translate this into numbers, and then let's look at 3 different alternatives that can operate in the same word or same way, and which is the best to go or pursue, right? So the analytical approach is always there, no matter what I'm doing. Now, when I finished my studies, I went on into a world of management consulting. So that, to be honest, had made a massive, massive difference in my thought process. So I worked for large blue chip customers all over the globe, working on different projects. Like it could be as small as making some little improvements to giant oil giants, where we're looking at 2.5-3 billion worth investment, capital projects. So that again has helped me create a very solid foundation, how businesses can be built, launched, whether it's product, in which countries, like expanding into different countries and all that. So all of that was highly useful in terms of the way I approach to various challenges, whether it's idea creation and all that. Now, coming back to your first question, that how did I come up with all this, parallel collaborations or cooperation opportunities or initiatives behind that? But there again, I will just go back to my knowledge as management consultant. Rather than just thinking laterally, you need to start branching that out. That okay, this idea, it's not about you want to follow this route to get from A to B. The objective is getting to B, and let's look at the other alternative. As I said, that 2 or 3 different alternative options that can help us get there. So the business growth that we want to achieve, B2C can be one approach. We also learned that B2C is hard. Although the solution we getting on a monthly download around 1,100 at the moment, however, is it enough? No, it's certainly not enough. We would like to get into the thousands, or 5s and 10s of thousands. However, it will take us a lot longer. So let's start building those parallel, growth opportunities that can help us get there. So one of those deals with the dating app, for example, gives us access to 4 million users. There you go. Now, out of 4 million, even if we consider converting 10% or 1%, we have a huge number of new users added on a month-on-month basis. So this is how I always look at the problems, the parallel growth opportunities, and then using the network as a management consultant, as you would appreciate that we are blessed with those connections, and then we start looking at and exploring those connections, which can help us make those intros, use our investors network or mentors network that can help us get there.
Man, I think there's so many lessons in there. I want to pick out the key ones that I took away from that. The first being the kind of, you want to solve problems backwards. So you don't want to think about, all right, here's where I am and here's how I'm going to get to B. It's like you have to vision point B, and then just think about all the different pathways you can take from where you are now, and use a data-driven approach, as you said. I find that a really interesting way to flip a problem, because I think a lot of people will look out on that and see. I certainly looked at that and thought, oh, this is a B2C product. And then once you explain the go-to-market and you have a very interesting way about going about it, then you start to see the problem in a whole different light. I think the second one is something that Suraj said earlier, which is, if you have what is fundamentally a B2C model, think about how you can access huge groups of users that are kind of already invested in another B2C business and tap into that user base. I think that's very, very actionable advice for someone who's building more of a kind of a model that you guys are a B2C. I think the third and final one is just the experience that you've shown. in building your business, in terms of, you know, there's so many people out there that in the early 20s building a business, crazy growth, and it will take off. But, you know, maybe you get to that point where you need a steady hand, or you need that extra bit of experience of years or decades working in a certain industry. And you really eloquently put that with your kind of combination of your background in engineering, the way you approach problems, but also just a wealth of experience having worked with, as you said, all the blue chip companies across the globe. So that's fantastic insight, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and as a mentor to a couple of business school, you know, entrepreneurship projects, I always say, don't fall in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem, because you will always find a way to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So that's the intuition that you need to use. Then the opportunities of solving that problem is enormous. Rather than just sticking to what we're doing, let's look at how else we can solve that.
Yeah, it's very easy to look at existing solutions out there and maybe kind of like put them onto a new problem and say, oh, this would be the solution because it worked in X industry. You see things like Uber for X, right? Or like Airbnb for X, and just taking a business model and planting it on a new vertical, when actually you should probably think from first. That's another thing about engineering as well, thinking from first principles, right? That's probably what I take away most from engineering, is that you kind of ask why a lot. You kind of ask, like, why should it be like this? And like, you know, just because Uber's like that doesn't mean that this thing in this vertical needs to be like that as well. And you think from the ground up, which you're clearly doing as well. So that's fantastic, man. But yeah, we're going to wrap up now. Yogesh, it's been a pleasure. Love the conversation. Really insightful. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the conversation as well. Nice meeting you both. All right.
Thanks
It's
a
a
lot for
pleasure,
joining
man.
us, Yogesh.
Bye for now. Yeah, bye. Yeah.
Take care.
Take care.